Welcome to Dog Day Afternoon. I am Gilles Gallant with BetsTV and FTNBets. You can follow me on Twitter at GDawg5000. And it's the betting show where we talk NFL, we give some sports betting advice, give a few picks along the way. And the main thing is we don't take ourselves too seriously around here. Every week I'm going to cover the latest odds in the NFL, some NFL futures, and also give a platform to people that I'm a huge fan of and talk some NFL shop. And this person who I have today, again, is to me one of the sharpest handicappers out there. It is Jess Gonsalves, who is a sports betting analyst and does content for FanDuel, also for Pro Football Network, one of the first female handicappers for Coverage Experts. Jessica, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, Jess, again, watching from afar and seeing how you've been navigating the waters and handicapping games and not just football, like you've been doing it with baseball and basketball too. I'm a really big fan of your work. So I felt like it had to be, if I was going to have a female guest, my first guest on the show, you were it. So welcome. And one of the things that I love to do, Jess, when I kick off the show is I obviously in sports betting and sports in general, hot takes is always the topic du jour, I guess, if we were going to stick with the French anthem here. And it's a segment I like to call Apparently. And basically what it's going to be some hot takes here. You can call me an idiot if you think I'm a little off with my takes. You could tell me if I'm onto something. And we're going to start off with this one, Jess. Apparently, the NFC is going to be a bloodbath. Like, I can't pick which team is coming out of the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. Between Arizona and Green Bay and Tampa, and even to a lesser extent my Cowboys, all four are looking pretty legit right now in the NFC. And Jess, I want to know, is it apparent it is to you as it is to me that the NFC is very hard to pick on who's going to make it to Super Bowl 56?
It really is. There's a lot of competition when it comes comes to who to choose. I mean, especially right now, there's some teams that looked bad early on, and now they're looking really good, and then vice versa. If I had to choose one, though, I'm going to go with your boys. I like the Cowboys.
Hey, see, I knew there was a reason why I wanted to bring you on the show. Yeah, at 4-1, we're looking good. I mean, you could argue they're 5-0, but you could argue they're 4-1 because of the way that they won against the Chargers, depending on how you want to view it. But I think the main thing that I like about the Cowboys so far is just their offense is finally living up to the potential. And the defense, I'm still one of the more skeptical people of how well they're playing. I think the Trayvon Diggs interceptions are kind of maybe increasing the public perception of that more so than what's actually happening on the field. But yeah, for myself, I think right now I'm still kind of leaning to Tampa Bay. I still think even though their pass defense has been abysmal through 5 weeks, I still like them, whether it be on a neutral field or at least to be able to give a team like Arizona or Green Bay or the Rams, for example, still give them a decent go to be able to advance to the Super Bowl. All right, now, Jess, we're going to move on to the next topic here. And apparently, Jess, the AFC West is terrible. It's just terrible. Like, I know that the Chargers are 4-1. I know that they look good, and I know that they've had some pretty decent wins. But I mean, we're not going to get into the personal stuff of the Raiders and everything that just happened there. But the fact that their coach is gone, it's a rudderless organization going forward. Denver's offense just looks terrible to me. They can't really move the ball, even with Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock. Their wide receiver room is just, guys off the street at this point outside of Tim Patrick. For me, is it as apparent it is to me as it is to you, Jess, that the AFC West is actually a pretty bad division?
Being from San Diego here and, going to a lot of Chargers games and, being around the AFC West, even though I am a Dolphins fan, it's hard to watch this. Hard to watch all these four teams, but I think when it comes to looking at, them as a whole right now, I think the Chiefs will fix their defense. We know the Broncos would be like this as well. And then the Chargers, they're their own division right now. They're the best. They look really good. They left San Diego. They went to LA and they got themselves a new quarterback. And they're just, in my opinion, they look the best as of right now. The Chiefs, I know they'll come back, but the Chargers, they are looking good.
Yeah, and I don't think it's an insurmountable lead. It's technically like a 2.5 game lead because of the Chargers having that win over the Chiefs right now. But you're looking at the Chiefs schedule. It's not really that easy. And I was saying this last week on the show, like, I don't see an instance of how the Chiefs defense gets a lot better. Like, I just still think when you're looking at the secondary, you could still pass on them fairly easily. I mean, you could run on them too, really, at this point. It's been not great defensively. I mean, offensively, Patrick Mahomes has 6 interceptions already this year. He only threw 6 last year. It's just, we're seeing a really hard regression right now with this team. And it's really difficult to determine outside of the Chargers, like, if there's even a team that can give them a go for the remainder of the year. But that's just my take. I think the AFC South is probably still the worst division if you had to pick, in the league. But AFC West is really giving them a run for their money at this stage. We're going to move on to the next topic now. Now, Jess, I don't want you to immediately block me on Twitter and unfollow me if I put this out there. So I want to just give you that warning before I put this out there with your Dolphins jerseys in the background. But apparently, Jess, we need to rechange this name to the Dolphins because there is no defense right now being played by Miami. It's kind of almost like shocking to me because especially with what we saw last year from their secondary. I think they were 2nd or 3rd in the league in passing touchdowns allowed. And even week 1, like against the Patriots, I know the Patriots offense has regressed, obviously, comparatively to what we've seen in previous years. But that was still a hell of a defensive performance in the week 1 to do that in Foxborough. And it's just been a train wreck ever since. Jess, is it apparent it is to me as it is to you that the Dolphins' defensive identity is pretty much gone?
Ooh, well, this is hard for me to.
I know.
But
I'm putting you in a tough spot here.
Right. The defense is getting worked over because the offense can't keep the ball and stay on the field. So they're spending too much time out on the field. They're getting exhausted and they look good right there in the beginning. But then just as the game goes on, they're just making more and more mistakes and letting teams run all over them just because, again, there's only, they just need to figure things out offensively to give their defense time to rest, to be able to still go out on the field and play the level that I know that they're capable of playing. And we'll have to see how. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, we'll have to see how things change when Tua comes back. Are they going to be improved offensively to the point where their defense is going to look really good again? That's just to be determined once we see what Tua is all about.
Absolutely. And I think I'm kind of with you on that, is that was the one thing I was going to comment on, and just that their offense is not really giving the defense much of a chance. And you're gassed by midway through the 3rd quarter because you've been on the field for 2/3 of the game. And that was the one thing. I think the numbers are a little inflated as well, the defensive stats, because of that Bucs game, putting up 45 points. I actually think the game against the Bills was a little bit closer than the score indicates. Obviously, they got shut out. But, if you just look at the first half of that game and even the way that Josh Allen was playing, the Dolphins are right there. It's just offensively they couldn't really do much once Tua went out. And then against the Colts, that game kind of confused me as well because, again, I was so used to what I was seeing from the Colts in the first 3 to 4 weeks that I wasn't really sure that Carson Wentz and them could go down there and be able to pass on them. And that's kind of what kind of lit me up, where I'm like, man, like maybe I'm wrong about Miami's defense. So I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is we're not going to go that far where we're going to take the D out of the name. I think more just I came into the season under the idea that this is going to be a defense that is very tough to pass on. And, especially with, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, they have a lot of tools in place, but they're just not really getting much pressure to the quarterback, it seems. And as a result, having to be out on the field for over 2/3 of a game is not a good thing for a team.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we won't bash the Dolphins too much more. I think I might have one more joke left for the show, and I promise it's not as harsh as that one. But I wanted to look at some of the futures odds for 3 specific teams. One of them being in the AFC East, who probably had the best win of the week, and that is the Buffalo Bills, Jess. The Buffalo Bills now are odds to win the Super Bowl down to +600. Josh Allen is the MVP favorite at +450. Even Sean McDermott, NFL Coach of the Year, at +1000. And then the Bills to win the AFC to conference to go to the Super Bowl, sitting at +240. Jess, of those 4 futures odds that you're looking at right now, which one would you feel confident in betting and recommending to our listeners or viewers to bet on?
Yeah, if you were to take one, I personally don't like to take future bets, just to put that out there. But if I was to lay some money on this one, hands down, I'd have to say the Bills winning the Super Bowl. I think that they're looking really good right now. They're the full package. And if there's a team that I definitely see that's going to be there in the end, it's the Bills. So I'd say go for that. Even though Josh Allen, yeah, that MVP status is quite possible as well. However, there's a lot of really good looking quarterbacks too when it comes to situations. So I would say the best bet there would be them going to the Super Bowl.
Good call. And I think of those 4, I agree with you more so of the MVP part, because you're buying low at this point at plus 450. He opened as like the 3rd or 4th favorite at like 12-1. At this point, with so much season to go and having Kyler behind him, Tom Brady, I know I'm forgetting Lamar, there's a lot of good candidates out there with a lot of season left to play. And if he takes a big hit on one of those runs that he loves to do, you're going to see those odds just go in the toilet. I think I agree with you on the Super Bowl odds at 6-1. I actually do I'm interested in the Sean McDermott Coach of the Year one, not because I don't think Brandon Staley's a good coach. I think he deserves to be favorite right now. But I think if you end up having the best record in the AFC or even the best record in the NFL by the end of the year, you can't say that Sean McDermott won't be a finalist. And to get 10-1 odds at this point for somebody who will likely be a finalist at this rate, I think that just, and again, I'm a moth to the flame when it comes to the high odds, so don't mind me. But again, at the plus 1,000, that's immediately what drew me in. It's like, oh man, I think McDermott could actually win Coach of the Year here, because it's just been a slow, steady incline of his time in Buffalo. And so I think of those 4, I agree with you on the Super Bowl part. Probably would look at McDermott as well at plus 1,000. Bills to win the AFC at plus 240. That's a coward bet. You might as well just take the Super Bowl if you're going to take it. All right. Well, team number 2, this team actually had a pretty decent win this past week. And I'm not really confident in a lot of the odds that I was looking at here, but I still think that they're a team worth looking at just because, again, we're 3-2 in the NFC, and I feel like anything can happen in the NFC conference right now. And that's the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears Super Bowl odds with Justin Fields at quarterback sitting at plus 15,000. NFL Rookie of the Year, you could still get Fields at plus 700 behind Jamar Chase and Mac Jones. Matt Nagy, this one I wanted to, this is almost like trolling the Bears for NFL Coach of the Year at plus 3,000. But I am kind of curious on the Bears, what your thoughts are on the Bears to win the NFC North. So Jess, of these 4, I know you don't bet futures, but if you could, which of these 4 would tickle your fancy?
Well, I would tell you which one right away. What I would never vote for is that Matt Nagy one. I'll tell you that much right now. But if I had to pick one of these, I like the Bears winning the NFC North. I think that's the best bet to go with. That division again is, there's, like we were talking about, there's just a lot of games. Like they're getting a lot better. They're looking a lot better. Definitely the division, because you have the Packers and the Vikings to worry about. And I think the Bears are one of those teams where, they've been kind of looking shaky, but then they have a game where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, Justin Fields was the right quarterback to choose. And, they're, defensively, they're looking really good. So we have a long ways to go. And if Fields and the offense can get a hold of everything, and the defense will be able to handle their business, then I think that they have a good chance of winning the division.
I agree. And the offense is kind of what I'm seeing as a work in progress. Like, I think people still kind of forget that was only this past week was what Justin Fields' 3rd official start, and not just coming in like halfway through or being used as a bit player. And you've seen already from some of the other quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones, and of how they're improving as the season goes on. By the time we're getting into week 4 and week 5, you watch Mac Jones and you can almost trust him to go down the field and score on the Texans to win the game. Trevor Lawrence, while he hasn't been, he's a little turnover prone for my liking, but at the same time, he's steadily improving. So that's kind of what I was going with. And I'm agreeing with you that I think Justin Fields, we haven't seen the best of him yet this year, and it's only going to improve. They still have both of their games against the Packers. So again, I just don't think it's insurmountable when they're 4-1 and the Bears are 3-2. Super Bowl, no, plus 15,000. That's just, you could give me that money if you want to do that. Matt Nagy, that was more of a joke one, but the Bears to win the NFC North, or Fields at Rookie of the Year at 7-1. I'm not saying that Jamar Chase won't win Rookie of the Year, but If he gets hurt next week, and again, I don't really like making bets on the idea that a guy's going to get hurt, but I just think that the Bengals could easily go down off a cliff very easily if anything was to happen to Burrow. He's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL at this point. I'm just not sold that Jamar Chase is just a slam dunk pick at this stage. So I think at 7-1, still pretty decent odds for Fields. All right, now, Jess, we're moving to the third team. And again, this isn't a homer pick. It wasn't meant to be. We already covered them in week one. I think it's worth noting, and we have to look at them now because the odds are shifting for this team, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys to win the Super Bowl at 12-1. Dak Prescott, MVP, sitting at plus 650. He's already a huge odds-on favorite for comeback player of the year at minus 250. And finally, and there are minus odds as well to win the NFC East, so I decided to include just winning the NFC and getting to the Super Bowl at 6-1. Jess, we talked about the Cowboys. Of these four odds for futures, is there anyone that you would be interested in betting on?
Yeah, I would have to say I'd go with Dak being MVP. We just, like we touched base a little bit earlier when it comes to, all these. Yep. Yeah, Josh Allen, all these quarterbacks are looking really good. Dak Prescott is really proven himself. Even he's especially that quarterback where you're like, wait, what? He was injured last year. And, he comes back. He looks so confident out there on the field. He's playing extremely well. It's like he never left, basically. And clearly you can tell that the Cowboys, that's what they needed. With him gone, that was like the real struggle. I mean, it was just like the whole team broke down. So with him back, everything's just looking really good. He's playing, I'm sorry, he's just playing extremely well. So that would be, if you had to lay some money, lay it on Dak.
I agree. And I think I'll tell you a story here. I've told this story a few times, but essentially, I got to watch the Cowboys for the first time in my life back in 2018. It was a Monday night football game against the Tennessee Titans. We had just traded for Amari Cooper. We traded our first round pick. So again, I'm already in the dumps on this idea because trading first rounders for anybody is just a bad move to make. And I'm there for the game, and Dak can't move the ball at all. We end up losing on Monday Night Football to the Titans, who didn't make the playoffs. We ended up winning the division anyway and making the playoffs. But the point was that when I left that game, mind you, there was a few alcoholic beverages in me. I was distraught, walking around the parking lot, just saying, we got to trade him. I can't deal with this anymore. I can't deal with the ineptness. And then we come into this year, and again, it's like a brand new quarterback. Like, his accuracy is at a career high. He's not running the ball the way that he would in earlier, like the Cam Newton style, where you're going between the tackles and trying to get those extra yards. Yet it doesn't even have a rushing touchdown yet this year. And already he's up there for NFL MVP odds. If he ever starts to trust his ankle again and wants to kind of pursue those kind of goal line opportunities, that's only going to, I think, improve his MVP case. As a Cowboys fan, you won't see me ever putting a bet on them to win Super Bowl, because that's just setting myself up for both heartache and then also loss in my wallet. I'm too jaded at this point. So I think I agree with you. Of the four, I think Prescott at MVP at plus 650 is probably the best bet to make of those four. And I think going back to the NFC Super Bowl argument, if you're going to bet on the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, don't bother with the NFC. Don't be a coward. Just go all the way, and then more than likely you have hedge opportunities in game.
I was going to add as well, saying you have an offensive line. It's back. So that's really, I feel like that's really helping Dak.
I agree.
And, it's all about the trenches, and the Dolphins suck because of the trenches. Have that going for you, where, I unfortunately don't.
Oh, no. Again, I was trying not to pile on the Dolphins here even more, but again, I'll let you take that role on that one here. Looking at week 6 games already, we had the look-ahead lines obviously midway through last week, and then official lines came out on Monday. But there were 4 games I sent to you before the show today, Jess, of games where I think underdogs could actually either win outright or just games that kind of caught my eye. And I wanted to see the 4 games. It would be Chargers +3 versus the Ravens, Cardinals +2.5 versus the Browns, Cowboys -4 on the road into Foxborough versus the Patriots, and the Monday night, or is it the Monday night or Sunday? It doesn't matter. Bills -5.5 versus the Titans. Of those 4 games, what are the ones that are standing out to you that you're already looking to get a bet in on?
Actually, so there's a couple that I already like. I've yet to place a bet, but I really like the Ravens -3. My model loves this game, and
Mhm.
I see actually my model even sees the Ravens winning by 11 points. They seeing the score around 31-20. And we all saw what Lamar did last night, and he's amazing when it comes to running the ball, and his throwing capabilities have improved significantly since being in the league. Where I know that the Chargers did have a great game against the Browns. Herbert does look really good. So that's why I also like the over in this game too. And I think that the reason that I like the over so much is because this is two powerhouse offenses. And
Absolutely,
but
yeah.
yeah, if I was gonna pick a side, I'm definitely leaning hard on the Ravens on this game.
Yeah, defensively, I'm a little worried about the Chargers. I really thought that they were going to lose that game against the Browns because they just could not stop the run. Both Kareem Hunt and Nick
Exactly.
Chubb were
Hmm.
just destroying them. And but at the same time, the Browns just couldn't stop anybody not named Mike Williams. Like it was ridiculous how awesome he was in that game. And I think the main thing that really worries me about the Chargers going forward is just how bad they have been at stopping the run in certain matchups. And that's obviously the Ravens' bread and butter with an elusive quarterback like Lamar and even Latavius Murray kind of regaining his role as kind of more of a bell cow back, I guess, in the NFL. Uh, I actually kind of like the Cardinals at +2.5 versus the Browns, and specifically just because I think the wide receiver matchup is going to really overwhelm them. Like AJ Green caught one ball for maybe 10 yards, and they still were moving the ball fairly easily against San Francisco, at least in my opinion, they were. They just weren't converting in the red zone. And the Browns defense, while obviously their defensive line is really good, I just think that Kyler is going to be very elusive in that game and be able to get it to his receivers. And if you're going to give me a 5-0 team against a 3-2 team, and it's still Cleveland, I'm going to take the points. I'm definitely taking the money line in this spot. I want to know what your thoughts were on the Cardinals versus Browns.
I'm with you on that. I really like the Cardinals at +2.5. This will probably be a game I'll definitely be playing this weekend. Again, my model says that the Cardinals will be winning outright in this by 5 points. And just like you were mentioning, when it comes to the quarterbacks, this is you have Baker, who's been playing below average, and we have Kyler, who's pushing himself into MVP status. So he's looking that good. And then as long as Edmonds is back and healthy, the Cardinals have too much offensive power, and to be going up against that Browns defense, I feel like they should have no issues.
And I think it really just comes down to if whether or not the Browns can execute the run game and keep Kyler off the field. If they don't,
Hmm.
it's going to be bad. Like I just can't see how they're going to defend anybody that's being thrown the ball from Kyler, especially when he just kind of shifts in the pocket and gets outside and then bombs it down to Hopkins or Christian Kirk or Rondale Moore or Max Williams no longer there. But either way, I'm just saying there's so many weapons and that they're all kind of, I don't want to say matchup proof, but they almost kind of are. And that's kind of where it comes down to for that. The Cowboys, I don't really love that game. I'm not really going to pick that one. If I did, it would probably just be Patriots money line because that's my style. And then Bills -5.5. I think that line will probably end up moving to 6 if it hasn't already by the time we get to kickoff. Don't love it, but at the same time, because I don't really play favorites or big favorites like that very often, especially on the road. But at the same time, the Bills are pretty much the bread and butter of the league right now. Like if you're picking against them, Godspeed.
Yeah, I agree. These are both lean. These were both like leans for me. I like the Patriots at +4.5. Bill Belichick is known to build a defensive plan to limit weapons for the opposing team. He's going to come to this game to try to neutralize. I heard this the other day and I thought this was great. The Dak Street Boys. So
Oh
referring to
no.
those, I thought that
Oh
was just too
no.
good. So I was like, I have to mention this.
The dad jokes are
Back,
reserved for me, Jess.
right?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
um, well, and then there's Mac Jones, he's good at dinking and dunking, getting the ball down the field. The Cowboys defense is good. It's not elite, but I feel like the Patriots, Bill Belichick's gonna have a plan for the Patriots to be able to put points up on the board. Now, when you're looking at the Bills game, yeah, this is another lean for me as well. I would take it at -5.5. just like you had mentioned. But, the Bills have a top 3 defense in the NFL. They have a top 5 offense in the NFL. They are the team to beat in the NFL. They just look unstoppable right now. And the Titans have a terrible defense. So the Bills should have no issues putting points up on the board, seen as, what the Bills have known to do, to put up 40 points easily, no problem. So that's just what I feel like can easily happen against the Titans. The only thing that they need to worry about is stopping the run when it comes to Derrick Henry. He's just like the powerhouse of that offense, hands down. And so if they're able to contain him, then they should be able to win this game with no issues.
And that's easier said than done. I mean, but at the same time, I agree with you. I think if anything, that's why, like, whenever I see a game like this, I immediately gravitate to props, and immediately I'm looking at touchdown scores and thinking about matchups. And you'll probably get half decent odds maybe for Tannehill to rush for one. Not really, though, because it'll probably be around like plus 250, plus 300. It's not going to be great for a quarterback. But at the same time, if there's any quarterback that has that ability, it would be him. I think as well, you're going to be looking at pass catchers for the Bills. Obviously, I've been cashing off Dawson Knox for the past 2 weeks. He's been at plus 250 or plus 220, depending on the matchup. I doubt you'll see him above plus 200 ever again, because he leads the team in touchdowns at this point. So, I mean, maybe like Emmanuel Sanders or even Stephon Diggs only has 1 touchdown so far. That's how incredible the Bills' offense is that Stephon Diggs, who led the league or was at least top 2 in receiving yards, receptions, touchdowns, doesn't even lead his team in any of those categories this year.
I know, that's amazing. I mean, even look at look at Lamar with Mark Andrews last night, making him look like he's Travis Kelce. I mean, that's just it's incredible to watch. All of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, why didn't I draft that guy? Hold on.
Yeah, and that's what happens too, I find, is that, so like Mark Andrews is a perfect example if we're using the touchdown score analogy. Like, he's always around like the plus 130, plus 140 range to score, but he had yet to score yet this season. Even coming into that game, he was around plus 150. Now he's going to be right back down to plus 120. You're never going to get value for him ever again. You know what I mean? So it was kind of one of those things. If you didn't grab him when you could, or in this specific matchup, especially against a Colts team that wasn't really great at defending the tight end, you kind of missed the window on getting value on touchdown scores like that. So one of the things that I'm probably more known for in gambling Twitter is touchdown scores. And a lot of people take what I say to heart, especially advice. And, I like to give people advice and tips and helping them make the best quality decisions for touchdown scores. But I find sometimes, and maybe this is just Twitter in general or social media, but people kind of take sometimes my observations, sometimes I'm just trying to be funny and maybe take it a little too seriously. And I always ask this question to the people that I bring onto the show, Jess, and I wanted to hear your take on this, because I've seen you get just chirped by idiots with one losing pick, and you clap back on them like you should. And I just kind of wanted to know from your perspective, Jess, why do people in gambling Twitter take everything we say so seriously? Like, every comment we make is like gospel or truth, or like we're running for office and we're governors of our respective state or province, in my instance, being from Canada. I want to know, in your perspective, why do you think that is?
Well, first off, I'll just say it's because they don't do their own research.
This is true.
When it comes to gambling and things like that. But what you have to realize is, especially, we're just living in a world now where everything is virtual, right? And so you can get behind a screen and you can become somebody else on the internet, right? And what most of these people even are on Twitter is you make an account and you just put a picture up there. So you're not even really expressing who you are. You're expressing yourself as a persona in a way. And we're the ones that are out there that are actually putting our face out there. We're showing video content. We are proving that we are a real human being and that we have a voice, right? So and then on top of that, you're saying, hey, this is my opinion on something. I've done my homework and I've done my research, and this is what I feel like, this team should win tonight. This is what you should, if you're going to lay some money, this is what you should, this is the team you should lay it on, and good luck, kind of thing. And then, and just like, they're either going to win or you're going to lose. And if you lose, someone behind another screen can just instantly attack you and say, gosh, you're so dumb, or just all these things. People can just like get
Yeah.
at you for like, why would you even choose that side of team? Because you can give 100 reasons why you should choose team A, and then you can give 100 reasons why you choose team B, and neither, like I said, one's gonna win or one's gonna lose. And if one wins, it's like, oh yeah, you were right. And if the other, if it loses though, then it's just like, someone has no problem attacking somebody on the computer when, in reality, like I said, we're the ones that are actually out there exposing ourselves as an actual human being. So yeah.
No, I agree. I think that's a really good recap. And I think one of the things that I wanted to touch on with you is the reasons. It's one of the reasons why when I first started, I didn't really put a lot of reasoning on why I would give a pick, mainly because I didn't want to give my edge, but also because I found I was getting into Twitter debates with baseless avatar people, John 378910, who would immediately think that they know more than me, or which again, that's kind of goes with Twitter, basically NFL and NBA Twitter. If you talk with anybody, you almost have to assume that person thinks they know more than you do, which is okay, because again, everybody does their own research. I'm not going to say that you don't, but just at the same time, make sure to just acknowledge that I know a little something. And I would end up just kind of debating the reasons on why I made a pick instead of the end result, which is really all that friggin' matters. Like, end result, ROI, and profits. That to me, you could have the best winning percentage of all time, but if it's all minus 200, minus 250 favorites, you're not really that profitable. But at the same time, you could be like me, who has a touchdown score winning percentage of like 30%, but I'm still up like 8 to 10 units for the year and with like a 10% ROI, because again, they're so freaking hard to hit. And I think the one thing that I was going to say as well is that I find a lot of people, and maybe this is just me, I find people bet too much money. And I know that sounds counterproductive to our industry and, having people wanting to sign up, because I want everybody to bet and play. But because of that, it's like the stakes become too real for people. And they'll put I'll put out a touchdown score, and while my unit it would be consequential money maybe to somebody else, I'm seeing people who are posting like a parlay of all three of my picks for like $1,000. And I'm just like, okay, you just already broke like two of my rules. Like, one, don't parlay these picks. Like, they're already like plus 250, plus 800. Like, what are you doing? And then secondly, like, you're doing a parlay and you're putting like legitimate money down. Like, I'm not saying that this person doesn't have more money to just throw away and whatever else, but at the same time, $1,000, like, you're the reason why sports books are increasing their ad revenues. You're the reason why, Vegas is installing and building new towers, because parlays are probably one of the biggest ways that sports books make a majority of their handle and money. And I think that's just what I was getting at, is that I just find that people, should look at it more like, unless you are a professional sports bettor and you have your own grind, more than likely you're not even following you or I, just you have your own thing and you have your own system and formula, and you're probably not even on Twitter for that matter. But I find that if you're going to tail one of us blindly, still do some research. Just make sure that even just a little bit of your analysis matches up with what we're saying, because then you won't feel like a complete idiot when you put your money down and you're like, damn, Jess, like, way to lead me astray again. Like, and it's like, well, if you would have known, like, that there was some volatility with this pick, maybe you wouldn't have picked it. And maybe you would be like, whoo, that was close. Good thing I didn't take that one today. Like, that kind of thing. But I just find people don't look at it that way. They just look at it as just a straight up what the winning percentage is, wins and losses. They're losing too much money on these parlays and then just want somebody to blame. And we're the people that are the most public for that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, too, if anyone is questioning your touchdown scores now, they just haven't followed you long enough. And yes.
yeah, I was going to say, because one thing is just, so I want to comment on this, because people who do follow, like, they probably looked at my results just for like the last 2 or 3 weeks and are just like, man, I don't know why that guy even has a job. That I get a lot. Or like, your whole job is just to make picks. Like, how are you not doing this right? And it's like, guys, like, if you would have been around, like, I'm not trying to brag about past season results, but just like 2019 and 2020, like, I was crushing it. And even the first couple of weeks I was crushing it. I just had a couple of bad weeks, and now I'm a little bit off the rails. Now I'm a chump again. And that's kind of the way it goes. So anyway, I will let you continue giving me a compliment about touchdown scores.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was just going to say, I totally agree with you. People bet way too much money. I could lose 10 bets in a row and I wouldn't care, but I'll know I'll be able to swing back the other way eventually. So you just have to, yeah. Even when I first started getting into sports betting, I was even making dumb bets or laying too much money on the line just because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, again, I was just amateur about it. I mean, why not? But then I started realizing that wait, there's more to this. This gets deeper. If you really want to invest in this, you really have to, you can't just like rely on someone else's opinion and then get upset if you end up losing. You have to take responsibility for yourself. And even when I started getting in, again, a few years ago, start taking it more seriously, you start reading books, you start educating yourself. And what's the main thing that every book I would read that they talk about? It's controlling your bankroll, managing your bankroll. So that's like the number one thing. If you're able to do that, then you can become a successful bettor long term.
Awesome. Perfectly wrapped up there, Jess. We're going to start the rapid fire Q&A. But before I do, I just want to make sure that everybody knows, anybody who's watched this or maybe feels slighted based on what we just said, we're not painting everybody with the same brush who follows us. I'm like, again, a lot of new people that kind of come on board and immediately just think that we're bad because we lost one pick. I just want to let people know I have a lot of cool followers that like are in it for the long haul, that are day ones, that are, guys that or girls that kind of keep me going and keep me motivated to want to keep making picks. So I just want to let people know that I still do appreciate a lot of the people who do engage with my stuff and your stuff too, because we probably have a lot of mutual followers as well. All right, now we're going to start the rapid fire Q&A, Jess. This is the first question. This is a little bit of a layup bunny question just to kind of get us started. It is a football question, so don't be afraid of where this is going. First question that I ask everybody: who's winning the AFC North?
Ooh, man. Well, I think we already talked about this, but I'd have to say I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
No, the AFC North. AFC North, the division.
Oh, the Browns. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
Browns.
it's all good. I was like, did I say NFC North? Anyway, yeah.
Sorry.
Browns has been no, it's okay. Browns has been the most consistent pick out of everybody that I brought on the show so far. Nobody has said Ravens. Nobody has tried to make a Bengals case, and nobody's going to make a Steelers case at this point. So, all right. So Browns still seems to be the team that's coming back to win the AFC North. Question number 2, Jess, if I promised you a Dolphins Super Bowl win within the next 3 years, but you have to quit drinking forever, would you make that trade?
Oh, and I mean, I know on that one.
I know, because again, one of the reasons why I started following you is you used to have these awesome like drink concoctions and things like that, of like cool stuff that you would talk about. And I was like, man, she's really into this stuff. She's almost kind of like a connoisseur in a way. But I was like, but I know she loves the Dolphins. So this is going to be like a real choice here. So, okay. So sticking with the drinking.
I was just going to say real quick, I had to give up drinking to be pregnant. So that was like, that was.
Well, twice for a year span, twice in like the last like 3 or 4 years. So again, like what's 1 year?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. Okay. Now, one last Dolphins question. Or actually, there's 2 more. Sorry about that. Either way. Okay. Question number 3. What hurts more? Seeing how well Justin Herbert is doing right now, or the Padres collapse in Major League Baseball this season?
Oh, man. But I'm going to have to go with Herbert. I even talked about this last week or the week before on another show. Yeah, I'm really thinking Herbert was the way to go instead of Tua. But yeah, Herbert is 15 years. He's right there. The Padres, that was 1 year. We can bounce back from this. So
you're not a Tua truther. I know I have a lot of Dolphins fans in my life somehow, and you're not a Tua truther. You're more.
No. I mean, I love him, and I'm not giving up 100% on him. But I have to say, Herbert is looking really good, and we were the pick right before. So right now, things can change. Okay, right, you can ask me this question again.
Yeah. Next season I'm gonna ask you this exact question, see where you stand, because again, I think even the Padres to start the year, I thought they were super exciting. I thought especially with all the pitching that they traded for, it was already still going to be uphill battle playing in that division, because again, how good the Dodgers are, where they could just fall ass backwards into 100 wins, and even the Giants, who are obviously still beat both of them, you know what I mean, and probably look like one of the more upper end teams to win the World Series this year. Okay. Moving on to question number 4. Have you found a perfect wine yet that pairs well with a specific sport? Like, so one of the things that going back to the alcohol part, and again, not trying to make you out of some lush or something like that, but just you had a really cool ideas of things that like you could drink with a specific game. And I just would notice, I was like, man, I wonder what she thinks is like a good drink for football compared to basketball, compared to baseball, especially with the way that you handicap all these different sports. I just wanted to know, is there a perfect drink for a respective sport?
Ooh, that's a tough one because I do love my wine, but that's usually because I'll begin cooking. So when I cook, I really like to drink wine. However, I've really gotten into like craft cocktails, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess once you hit your 30s, you're like, oh, let me add this liqueur to my liquor cabinet, and you really start to get into, instead of just making yourself a whiskey and Coke or something like that, you're like, no, I want to make a Manhattan or an old fashioned or something like that. So I've really, gotten into Japanese whiskeys as well, things like that. So when it comes more to like sitting down and watching a game, craft cocktail has kind of been my more go-to status than anything.
Nice. See, for me, I just had to, and so I'm 37, and I had to learn a hard lesson around like 32 that I just can't drink booze with like sugary drinks anymore. Like I can't really do like a rum and Coke. I can't really do like pop in my booze anymore. And the reason being
Mm-hmm.
is because I would just get way too hungover or I'd get sick. And what I've found out is that scotch or bourbon, if I just drink them straight, while I usually end up getting pretty out of it after a while. If I do get sick, it's very clean. I never am hungover as a result of it. And again, it's very much now circumstantial for me. If I am just going to be hanging out and I want to make sure that I keep myself on my best behavior, it will be beer only, probably craft beer. And that way I know that I will not get out of hand. If I start drinking scotch or whatever else, even though it is supposed to be a sophisticated drink, I'll sometimes maybe get a little unruly. So that's one thing I have to kind of, as you get older, it's more of a behavioral thing more so than trying to pair it with a respective sport. Yeah. All right. Last Dolphins question. True or false? Tua Tagovailoa will win an NFL MVP in his career.
Oh man, this is so hard. I want to say true, but for now, I'm going to have to say false, unfortunately.
It's okay. And that was the last Dolphins question. So you made it through the other side. Next question, Bucks Eagles for Thursday Night Football. Seeing Bucks are -7. What side are we taking here, Jess?
I'm going with the Bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I was going to mention is Brady is 10-2. So one of the things I used to track is how quarterbacks do on Thursday Night Football, just for their career. And obviously, Tom Brady has one of the largest sample sizes just due to his length of his career. 10-2 on Thursdays with his teams, but only 6-5-1 against the spread. And the 2 games with the Bucks, they're 0-2 against the spread. Last year, losing to Chicago on the road, and then week 1 against Dallas, not covering the spread. For anybody who is into the trend side of things. Another AFC East question, Jess. If someone offered you 10,000 to 1 odds for the Jets to make the playoffs and you had to bet a full unit of your money, would you take that bet?
No way. No, not when it comes to the Jets.
All right. And again, some people answer that question a little differently because they don't really have the AFC East, not biased, but just they're not as immersed in the division the way that you would be being a Dolphins fan. Some people, they use the office excuse. They say like the Kevin Malone side, if anything is ever 10,001 odds, you got to take it. I'm of the belief that you don't. I'll take that bet for you and I will give you $10,000 or 10,000 of your unit if you want to do that bet with me. All right. Now, Jess, we talked about this a little bit before the show started. Final question. Can you please explain to everyone how hard it is to handicap any game, football, basketball, whatever, with a crying baby in your arms? The floor is yours. Every parent has done it. Any parent who is out there, they know this circumstance and situation of where you're trying to do research on your phone, but you're being in my case, maybe I could be looked at as a neglectful parent. I don't think I was. But I want to know, in your perspective, Jess, can you please illustrate how hard it is to handicap a game and then to do this? Because I think you are a true pro and a sharpshooter, being able to pick games the way that you do while also having a young family like you do.
Thank you. It just really, anytime I feel like I'm at that moment of struggling, I got to realize that there's another mama out there who is able to multitask. That's what they say. The key about the number one thing that's amazing when it comes to being a woman is multitasking, especially when you have children. So as mentioning, there's even been a point a couple days ago where I was even breastfeeding. I'm tandem breastfeeding. I have a laptop and I am handicapping and trying to make plays and figuring things out because time is money and you're like, wait,
hard.
what's going on? I got to see what's going on. And yeah, it's just those key moments where you're like, you can make it happen. And what helps too is I have a great partner who helps me. I can pass the babies over to him and he can step in and help support me, and then we have a nice little system going too. So, and you even catch me once the babies are going to bed and you're like, oh, it's bedtime, I should be in bed right now too. No, that's where I'm gonna sneak up, get out of bed. That's my moment, and I'm here on the computer at those late night hours, midnight up to 3 a.m. or vice versa.
Yeah.
It's just like you just got to make do with that time. And when they say when your baby naps, you nap, and sometimes those are the moments that I do sit there and I'll close my eyes for those 30 minutes because the babies are asleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I'll be up at wee hours of the night making things happen. So you just got to work.
Well, I want to just mention, first off, I think all moms are superheroes in general, just with the amount of that they can take on their shoulders and still be able to do it in stride and be just as good as they are with how they do it. And I think you're a perfect example of that, of somebody who is really an inspiration to show just of how awesome women are in this world. And then also the part, like, so I'll tell you a little brief story, not trying to equate it or anything like that, but like, so last Thursday, and I'm betting touchdown scores, Gerald Everett just got ruled out, or saying that he's not going to play, and I wanted to take a Seattle tight end at that spot. Will Dissly's odds haven't moved yet for the book, but my youngest takes the phone out of my hand and runs to the other side of the house, and I'm like, and it's bedtime too, so like I'm getting ready for bed and whatever else, and I can't just start screaming at them about something as trivial as that. But I'm like, I need to bet on this, I need to tweet this out, and it just, that to me, I was like, that's like a fraction of what women in general deal with in this kind of circumstance. And I was overwhelmed. So I was just, again, wanted to kind of virtually high five you and just kind of give you such praise for being able to bet and be as efficient as you are from a betting standpoint, while also probably being like just an ideal mother as well. So again, I just really wanted to kind of give you your props on that. Now, Jess, before we go, can you tell the folks at home how they can find your work and what you have going on? Because it really looks like you're everywhere right now and you're kind of a rising star. I think you're going to keep progressing here on this career standpoint. I want people to know where they can find your work if they want to be able to check in on you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for all the praise, by the way, and I truly appreciate it. And yeah, so where you can find me is on all social media networks, Gridiron and Wine. And I also do on Twitter, you'll be able to find, that's my main source, and you'll be able to find a lot of FanDuel content that I do on there. You can also find me Pro Football Network, where I do weekly articles as well as a weekly show. And then I am also on Covers, so you can be able to find my picks there.
Awesome. Now that's so awesome. Like the fact that you're like doing it as well with Covers, just a very respected organization within the sports betting space. Also doing excellent betting content with FanDuel, and then being able to chop it up both on Pro Football Network as well. I really think you're one of the more versatile people out there. So that's all for me. I really want to thank Jess for joining me today. For myself, you can find all my writing content over at FTNBets. You can catch me every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern on BetsTV for Touchdown Town, where we give out our best touchdown scores of the week. I want to thank you all for watching Dog Day Afternoon. I'm Gilles Gallant with BetsTV, and bon chance.